The Asra Nine-Tails Matsuri is an alternate festive design of the other Nine-Tails kits in the Megami device lineup. This kit is a pretty quick build overall. Its quantity of bare skin that is shown does provide challenges to make it look decent, and I'll be covering all of that in this video. Due to its design, it can be a cute kit to have on the shelf, and an excellent way to get experience with Seamline removal and using pastel makeup. In this video, I'll first cover Asra's assembly, which has a few gotchas I'll discuss. I spent some time on Seamline removal and detailing too. Timestamp links are in the description if you're interested in any particular part. If you enjoyed this build and review, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I also love hearing about your own experiences with this kit, or the techniques I use, so please leave a comment. It not only helps this channel, but helps me know what I should cover next. Let's get started! Asra Matsuri is part of the Megami device line of kits. Because of this, it comes in a sleek black box, with really bright and colorful art and example poses. Despite it being an easy build, the box is still pretty packed with runners. The manual is pretty basic for this one. The runners also have only a few colors. A clear purple for the armor of sorts, white for the clothing, light peach for the hair. Lots of flesh-colored runners for the body. It only comes with 2 pre-made faces and 1 blank. Then some water decals for a few more face choices and a bit of clothing details. Assembly starts with the head. The hair pieces are kind of thin for some reason, but aren't easy to break. I was already planning on using a purple pastel to darken the hair color, so removing the mold lines was important. Because the hair pieces were a bit thin, I took my time sanding down the mold lines since the hair details were not that deep. I even used a ceramic knife to make sure the hair fold detail was not lost. Pretty standard to have the hair halves go together like this, but this front section can be a bit tricky. The back half of the head pieces slid into each other, rather than just connecting in a flat manner. It was difficult to get this together and made me think I was doing it incorrectly at first. There is a nice mix of white and purple highlight pieces all through the model, so you'll be hitting all the runners pretty regularly. Torso is next. All the flesh colored parts are made of soft ABS plastic, so they went together really easy. Skin like this is not meant to be shiny and smooth. So, I usually only used up to 800 grit sandpaper when removing lines and gates. I also did a matte top coat later on. The neck mechanism is a separate piece that slides into the back. This is important to bring up since it leaves a sizable gap I'll deal with later when removing the seam lines. All the white clothing pieces are also pretty soft and very easy to deal with. White pieces tend to hide scratches and mold lines really well, so it might be hard to spot them if you would like to remove them. She also has a neck clothing piece that seemed odd. The design is related to her alternate kit armor, but it fits loosely. The torso has a very basic T-shaped mechanism the legs fit onto later. As you'll see, it doesn't allow for any advanced posing, since the legs will be shifted the same amount. The stomach pieces themselves are highly detailed, and they have to be, since they are very prominent on this kit. The hips were two halves that didn't fit together very well, and already came apart easily. I knew I'd have to deal with these later when removing seam lines. In order to deal with the parts separately, you need to plan ahead on how to take it all apart. The T-shaped leg joint was too wide, so I trimmed it down to allow me to take off the hips. The front clothing fits on with these small ball joints, and you'll see later how easily they come apart. The two halves of the body also have ball joints, but never had an issue with them. The sleeves are just two big pieces that go together. The shoulder, however, can prove tricky if you want to remove the seam line. The space between the movable joint and the shoulder itself is too small. I'll be removing the seam line, so I needed to open this up a bit. There are several ways you can do it, like a hobby knife or a scraper, but I chose just to drill it out a bit. This also helps with the arm posing, making it easier. Worth noting that you should consider doing this to all your arm joints with this type of design. The legs were all just single pieces, so there isn't much seam line removal needed. The hip part had a connection mechanism that fits right into it. However, there were some bad mold injection spots I'll discuss later, but dealing with these is always a bonus item. The rest of the legs and feet went together pretty simple. The instructions had you make all the accessories before final assembly. Now it was just all about putting all the pieces together. The legs, remember that T-joint from before? You need to pull that out in order to get the legs on. Then push it back in after attaching them. Assembled, she looks pretty good. I think this kit would look good on the shelf, but there are a lot of issues I want to take care of. Since I wanted to apply makeup pastels, I need to get rid of the seam lines for starters. Especially take care of how the hips keep coming apart. On a minor note, her legs have dark mold injection spots. I'll line up enough to make them look very noticeable. I'm also not happy with how thick her shoulder blades look. Lastly, the molding around her knees is very rigid and robotic looking. For all the seam line removal, I recommend watching my tutorial on removing seam lines with glue. I'll have a link in the description. I used this kit for almost all the examples in it, and it is a great way to see the details of what I did here. Overall, I used a thick and thin glue to weld the well-fitted parts, like the shoulders and body. Then I used a runner putty, also known as Sprue goo, to fix the hips and fill in the big gaps on her back. Since this kit has seam lines all the way down her sides, I found this pretty important in this case. The water decals are standard affair. Cut, soak, and place. They are thick and didn't tear. I then wanted to fix some of the worst of the mold injection spots. These are dealt with by first cutting them out or drilling the dark spots a little bit. Then softening the area up with some quick drying glue like SP. Shave or cut off a small bit of plastic from the runner and melt it into the hole. Spread it out with a toothpick. After it dries, just sand and repeat as needed. For the hard edges on the shoulder blades and legs, I just sanded these down until they looked softer. Keep the legs together when doing this to help look consistent. Compare with the other leg until you get the look you're after. For her pinkish hair, I wanted to give it a purple shading. I concentrated on darkening the grooves and tips. I noticed the plastic work from earlier had dried, so I returned and had to sand it down real quick. For all the skin shading, I turned to the Tamiya Weathering Master Makeup pastels. I used the hard sponge for the muscles and bone areas. Then I use the brush for general shading. Since the back no longer had seam lines, I had to give it shading. I used diluted acrylic paints to do all the panel lining. I ended up giving these several passes until I got the shade Ls after. With all the pastels done, I gave them all a matte top coat. Thank you so much for watching! If you enjoyed this build and review, please like and subscribe. You can find me over on Twitch at Interneco Models, where all this footage came from. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.